Hey guys, so in today's book review I'm going to be reviewing Blackberry and Wild Rose, and this is the author's name down here. I'm not going to try and butcher it. But this book I picked up, I'm not going to lie, I picked up this book for the cover. I think the cover of this book is really pretty, and when I picked it up I liked the name and I didn't really know too much about this story. But this book has quickly become one of my favourites this year. I really enjoyed it. It's a historical fiction, and on the front here it says, "A joy of love, a beauty of silk, and the cruelty of betrayal." So I'll read you a little bit on the back here. And it says, "When Esther, the wife of a silk weaver, rescues Sarah Kemp from a brothel, she thinks she is doing God's work, although Sarah is not convinced that being a lady's maid is better than being a whore." So it starts off with Sarah working in this brothel, and she's making quite a decent living, but she's not having such a great time, as you can imagine. And she happens to strike up a very unusual friendship with Esther, who is kind of portrayed as a bored housewife who wants to better herself. She's not satisfied with just being a housewife. She wants to learn how to weave silk, which is what her husband's trade is. He's a silk weaver in London, and she is kind of an artist in herself, and she wants to she just wants more in life. She wants to be part of his industry. She finds it fascinating. She wants to make her own silk, but her husband kind of just like shuns her off and is seen as, you know, not being, he doesn't see it as his wife's place to have any business in his silk weaving business. He's just like, oh, you know, you just kind of run the house and this and that. So she kind of gets bored, and she makes this, comes in contact with Sarah, and then Sarah decides to leave the brothel, and she comes and asks Esther for work. So she ends up being a handmaid for her. And they have a very unusual relationship. The chapters go back and forth between the two women and how they view each other. So like it says, Esther kind of views it as she's almost rescued Sarah, and she just thinks she's given her such a better chance at life, but Sarah just thinks she's not getting paid as much, and she just thinks that Esther is a very naive, silly woman, like I said, like a bored housewife, and doesn't even really know what's going on in her own house. And they almost look down on each other, but in different ways, and they think they are better than the other women in different ways. And it came down to, like, their different perspectives on life and on work and on where they saw their lives going. It was very, very interesting. There are bits I liked and disliked about both of the women. I liked how their stories in the house kind of went in and out of each other and in and out of their own stories and what they were doing in their lives. And yeah, it was just a very honest story about the friendship they had, and how they saw their different lives and how they coped with it, and how, like this says on the front, how they end up betraying each other at some points in the book. And it was just really, really good. It kind of swept me in. If you're into historical fiction, then I highly recommend this. It was a really good story. Like I said, it was one of my favourites. I liked both of the women's in different ways for different things. The men, not so much in this book. I feel like they were portrayed in quite, I guess they were seen in quite a harsh way, although maybe in those times they were. But yeah, it was just about the women's struggles and how they kind of made things harder for each other, but also tried to help each other in their odd little ways. I just thought it was a really good kind of historical friendship about, historical fiction about women who had an unusual friendship in those times. And I found it really interesting to read. There was kind of a lot of comments about the different class system in London then, and how women were looked upon, and women's roles in those kind of days, what was expected of women in those days, and the different options you had and the struggles. Yeah, it was very well written. I liked the atmosphere around this book. Just overall really good praise. I've just seen here it's been blurbed by Stacey Halls, who is the author of The Familiars, an historical fiction book which I also really enjoyed. So yeah, she says here, richly immersive, the plot is finely detailed as Spittlefield's silk. So yeah, if you liked The Familiars, you probably would really like this too. It's written in a very similar way, in a similar time. So yeah, just a short little review really on how much I enjoyed this book. I haven't really seen any hype around it or many other people talk about this book, but for the most part I really enjoyed it. Like I said, you kind of go on a little bit of a roller coaster with this women, of them both making silly decisions and doing silly things, but you can also kind of see where they're both coming from in their lives, and how, you know, whether you're upper class or lower class, you have different struggles within your life and different pleasures, I guess, within your life, with the different restrictions you can and cannot do, and like how, yeah, different people perceive you depending on your class and your trade, whatever you've been in. You know, both women are trying to better themselves in different ways. Obviously Sarah's came from a brothel, and she's trying to have a more better standing in the community. And then obviously you have the wife Esther, who wants to become a silk weaver, but it's not really seen as her place to do so. So it's about their struggles in finding their place in their world, which is predominantly male driven. Yeah, I just really liked it. I thought it was a really good book, so it hit from me. Let me know if you guys are planning on reading this book or have read this book and maybe have different views from me. It had really good ratings on Goodreads, so I'm surprised I haven't really heard anyone else talk about this book. But yeah, definitely check it out. If you've been meaning to read this book, then I would say pick it up. Like I said, if you liked The Familiars or The Doll Factory or The Miniaturist, I reckon you'd really enjoy this book. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and as always, thank you for watching. Until next time, bye guys.